Hello everyone. Hope you all
Yeah,
can
hi.
hear me.
Yeah, hi.
Hello. So, shall we move on to the next topic in the list? So, today we'll discuss about our version control system using Git, and it's 11th. Hmm? Right. So, shall we proceed? Or you guys have any question or issues before we move on to this topic? All
I'm
right.
having no, I'm having one question. I have created that web page and all that HTML one. So now, if I want to go that console app, so I need to go to the folder and open, or there is something where we can fetch like file or something.
No, you'll be opening your workspace folder, right? The workspace folder is already available now in your
Yes.
project under
Yeah. Yeah.
Visual Studio Code, right?
Okay.
So you can able directly access it actually, though this is what we have created yesterday, right? So
Yes.
this is what it is. So it is recommended to have a dedicated project for your web application and a console application. So that console application will be a different folder, right? You can just open that folder in a separate project. That should be fine.
Okay. Done.
All right, fine. Mm, all right. Any other questions? People who are completely new can able to understand what is happening. The non-IT people or people who are completely new to this stream. So today we are going to actually start our DevOps journey with the version control system. And here, in order to work on this particular module, first let me quickly give you the list of topics which you're going to cover here as per your course curriculum.
I'm
So
sorry to
if you
interrupt.
can see here,
Hello.
yeah.
I cannot see that PDF you mentioned. Like there is a document, right? Set of Python programs.
Okay, you can refresh it. Okay, let me check. I'll share. I'll talk about that in during break as I'll.
Yeah, sure,
Okay,
sure.
so it will be there in your repository. You can quickly sync fork and access it. No problem. So now coming back to your today's topic. So here we'll be discussing about the fundamentals of version control system, and we'll discuss about what are the different types of version control system and what is Git promptly and how to install and set up Git. And we'll be discussing about some of the Git CLI commands through which we can able to interact with our version control system, like all the important commands. And then we'll be discussing about the branching strategies and working with multiple branches and parallel development. And then we'll be managing your remote repositories. And then we'll be creating some simple project in Visual Studio Code and publish in a container GitHub repository, right? So the terminologies might be look strange, but don't worry, it's a very easy thing to implement. So let's consider, okay, our continuous development phase, right? So I hope you all remember, right, during our DevOps uh, module, right? And the very first item is about the DevOps stages. So if you can recollect our very first day of our discussions, in our case, we have talked about continuous development, where we expect the developers to create the source code and update the source code in source code repository. So now we are ultimately on this particular phase. So as part of DevOps, first we're going to discuss about the continuous development stage, where developers will be creating some application source code and publish into the content source code repository. So from there only your continuous integration, continuous testing and deployment will happens, right? So here in this continuous development stage, we were using some tools like IDEs. That's what we used yesterday. Using Visual Studio Code, we can able to develop the source code. And once the source code is ready, how we can able to version control it using Git or GitHub. That's what we're going to learn in this module. All right. So let's consider an example. Yesterday, I have created one application source code, right? It can be your Python program or it can be your HTML component, right? So this HTML file, it is a web component which is used to design your front end web application interface, right? So consider I have created one HTML page like index.html. So as a developer, when I create this particular file, I just open it in my Visual Studio Code and I can make some code changes, right? Whatever the changes it is, that doesn't matter. I can able to make some code changes. And then once my changes are ready, what I'll do? Hmm? Let's say this particular program or a script, it is going to have 5 functions. Will I create all 5 functions and test it all together, or I'll be creating the function by function and testing it on incremental basis? What is the best option? Hmm? Just think on developer's perspective. If you're a developer or if you want to create a script, how you will approach it? Hmm?
Incremental method.
Yes. So as a developer, I will create a program first and I'll try to define some functionalities. Once the function definition is done, I'll be testing that function, right? If that function is successfully executed, then only I'll go and create another function. Like that, we'll be doing some incremental changes in our program. So assume that I have created this function, and as soon as I create the function, what I'll do, I'll just save that file, correct? Index.html, correct? And then I'll be testing it. Once my testing is completed, I will go ahead and edit the same file. And I can make some incremental changes. So during this edit action, there'll be some new changes I can able to add. Correct? It can be new changes, or I can able to update the existing record, or I can able to add new lines of code. Anything can happen, right? So this is what we call it as the incremental changes in the existing program. So once I make incremental changes, what I'll do? Again, I will save the new changes and I will do the testing, correct? Yes, no?
Yes.
So during this process, I am trying to create new changes in the same program. A lot of changes we are going to implement. Assume that the very first time when I save this program and test the result, it is working as expected. So I just made some new changes in the same program and I am testing it now. But during this process, the test is not successful. What are all the changes I made now? It has completely collapsed my existing program also. Earlier, what was running successful, right? Now it is not running as expected. So what should I do now? What should I do? If the latest changes are not working as expected, what will be the next action?
We need to
We'll
roll
roll
back
back.
changes.
But
So we will try to undo the changes, right? Roll back the changes, correct? But to roll back the changes, how I can figure out the latest changes from my file? Because if I create any file, the file will be saved as a static content, that's all. So if you look into my yesterday's program also, I have my HTML file. It is just a static content we just saved here. What are all the incremental changes I'm making on, right? How I can figure out whether it is based upon the latest changes or previous changes. Is there any mechanism to track it?
If you have enabled version control, then maybe we can pull the first version. Let's say that this is
So the
test
point
dot
here is, whenever we create any program component, whether it is a HTML program or a Python program or a Java program, if you save that file as a flat file, you'll be having the static content in that file. There is no option or capability to track the changes. Even if you take this notepad, I'm just preparing class notes on daily basis, right? So I just started and I'm just keep on adding new changes in the same file. And if you can see here, I'm using this date as a tag, correct? If I'm not using this tag, can you able to figure out on which date we updated the file?
No.
It's not possible, correct? So any flat file you create, if you want to track the changes or new incremental changes, we should have some tagging. This is what it is. This is just a tag I'm assigning to understand the daily changes. But if you save that file as a static file, you cannot expect that tagging. We have to manually include it. So to overcome this, what we can do means we can use a package called version control system. Okay. So version control system is a tool that can be installed in your machine. And using this version control system, you can able to save your file. So what is the purpose of version control system is? It is used to version control the changes. Okay. And it is used to track the file changes. That's it. These are two important benefits of using version control system. So going forward, whenever developer creates any application component or any program, they never save the file using the simple file system. They are recommended to use version control system on their machine. So now using version control system, if you try to save the file, you know how it happens. Let's say I have created this file here. And once my changes are ready, if I try to save this file, right? In normal file system, it will be saved as index.html. But if you save it using version control system, the same file will be tagged like this. Something like this. So this v1.0 is nothing but a tag, or we call it as a version number or a commit ID. So using this tag, I can able to easily track my changes. Similarly, if I make any new changes in the same program, I can edit the same file and I can able to make some incremental changes. And when I save this new file, again, it will get updated with a new version. So the latest version can be updated like this, v1.1. So previously saved content is considered as v1.0 version, and this is considered v1.1 version. Like that, whenever you make any incremental changes, you can able to see the new version of that code will be created automatically. You no need to manually create it. The version system will automatically assign the version number. Depends upon the changes. So now you can see I have created 5 or 6 different versions of my source code. Each and every version can have its own unique changes. Consider this is my latest version, v1.5. If this version is not working as expected, what I can do, I can quickly go back to my previous version. I can able to revert it with the help of this version number. So instead of manually searching the changes from your source code, we can quickly update the file name to the previous level to revert the changes. So using version control system, we can able to version control the changes by adding some tags, and also it is used for tracking your changes. Like what I did in my latest version, what I did in my previous version, I can able to easily track the changes. So that is the main advantage of using your version control system. Any question? Hope you understood the context, right? What is the need for it?
Yeah.
Yes. So if you want, you can compare it with any of your applications also. Like when you try to download any software through internet, right? You'll be downloading it with some version number, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
Like JDK 1.7, 1.8, 1.11. what it is actually. It's all versions that is assigned to that package. So if your latest version is not working as expected, you can able to revert to the previous version also. So that is how we can able to version control the source code changes. Easy. Now, how to work on this? So in order to work on this, first we need to understand the various types of version control system. Okay. So this is about the version control system. And this is the types of version control system. So in general, there are three types of version control system. One we call it as local version control system. Another thing is centralized version control system. And the third method is distributed version control system. Local version control system, centralized version control system, and distributed version control system. So what does local version control system means? Consider a scenario. I'm a developer. I'm an independent freelance developer. I'm the only person working in a project. So it means my entire source code is present in my local machine, right? In my local machine, I can able to maintain my project folder and I can able to work on my project components. So whenever I make any incremental changes, all those things will be stored in my local machine only. I'm not interested to share it with any other user because I'm the only person working on it. So if there is a single user, right, working on a project, they can able to use local version control system. So the point here is using this local version control system, you can able to version control the changes within your local machine. Got it? So as an independent user or individual user, it is very much advantageous. But tomorrow, consider a scenario. I have another resource. I just want to deploy 2 more developers to my project. So if more number of users added to the same project, then we cannot rely on the local version system. Why? Because assume that there is another developer joins the team and he is also having his own machine. So now the project folder, whatever I created here, it should be shared to this particular system, right? So how we can able to share that project to the team? If you're using local version system, it's not possible. For that, we go with the centralized version control system. So in centralized version control system, you can able to accommodate any number of developers. Assume that there is a developer A and developer B. Guys, please pay attention here, all of you. Don't get distracted. And as a developer, I just want to work on a particular project. So the entire project folder will be maintained in a central server. So I consider this as a central server. And in the central server, my entire project folders, the files, everything will be maintained. So as a user, if I want to work on this project, first I have to connect to that central server. I have to establish connection to central server, and then I'll be accessing this particular file and start working on it. So I need to be available online to work on my central server. Similarly, user B, if they want to work on the same project, they can able to connect to that server and they have to be online to update their program components. So the entire source code will maintain the central server actually, a common server for all the users. So here the main point here is any user who wants to work on the remote or central repository, central server, they have to be always online. They can able to make the changes online. they cannot bring the changes to the local machine. It is not possible. They cannot keep the local version or local copy in their machine. Changes should be updated only through online. Due to some reason, assume that due to some network issue, I lost access to my central server. Means I cannot access the project. So these are some drawbacks. Or sometimes the central server itself, it's unreachable. If the server got crashed, I'll be losing my entire project. Got it? Like this, there are some drawbacks in your centralized server or version control system. So to overcome the drawback only, we're going with the distributed version control system. Got it? So for example, in the centralized server, right, you guys are using your Google Drives, especially Google Documents, right? You're using Google Documents, right? As a team, you guys are updating your Google Documents, like Excel sheets or Word document. Guys, are you aware of Google Documents, first of all?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes, right. So consider you are maintaining all your project related data in that Google document. And as a team, if you want access, it will be version controlled as central server, right? Do you keep your local copy in your machine? No. Everyone will update the file. Everything will be available on the remote repository only, your remote server or central server only. And if you want to update, you have to connect to the server and it should be done through online method. We cannot do it offline. So these are some examples for your centralized version control system. Easy. So the main drawback here is, as a user, you have to be always online. And due to some reason, if you lose your network connectivity or if the central server is crashed, you'll be losing your entire data. That is the main drawback. Let's say you are managing all your project documents in Google document. What if you are unable to access Google document on next day? Huh? The answer there, right? What if that server still got crashed? So like this, there are some scenarios, okay? So to overcome such situations, we'll be using your distributed version control system. So in distributed version control system, we have a remote server. And in this remote server, we'll be having a project repository. Repository is nothing but the collection of files and folders. And let's say as a user A, I want to work on my project. So what I can do means I can connect to my remote server and I can able to download that repository to my local machine. Repository means a project folder. I can able to download to my local machine and I can able to work on the project in offline mode within my local machine itself. Once my changes are ready, I can push the changes back to my remote server. Similarly, consider we have user B and they also wants to work on same project. So what they can do, they can connect to the remote server, download that repository to the local machine and start working on their project. Once the changes are ready, they can push it back to the remote repository because it's the shared repository. More than one user can able to access it. The changes, whatever developer B created, right? It can be accessible by user A through remote repository. Easy. So here, the repository, whatever we have maintained, the copy of the repository is present in the remote server as well as in the local user machine. Correct? It means the project is distributed in more than one machine. That's why it is called as a distributed version control system. And in real-time environment, we'll be having a replica of this remote repository. The repository, whatever you have, right? You can create a copy of this also at remote environment itself. So that's why even if this actual repository got corrupted or failed, you'll be having a backup of it in remote environment. Easy. So this is considered as the most effective way to version control changes. Here there is no data loss, as well as there is no chance of maintaining the inconsistent data. Right. So in this particular module, we are going to learn about Git. Why? Because Git is a open source distributed version control system. Correct. Git is a open source distributed version control system, and it is also used to version control the changes. All right. Used to version control the changes, and it is also used to perform development using branching techniques. I'll talk about the branching techniques in detail, but as of now, keep one thing in mind. Your parallel development can be achieved with the help of branching techniques in distributed version control system. Understood, right? What are the different types of version control system and its importance? Any question? Any question here?
No, Loksa.
All right. So you can able to take these references if you wish to understand the differences. Mhm. So just a quick summary. So your version control system, it is basically used to version control changes and used for tracking the file changes. And there are three types of version control system. One we call as local. It is promptly used only in a local machine and cannot possible to share the source code repository to other users because it is meant within the local machine. And if it is a centralized version system, the source code repositories are maintained in a central server where user should have a valid access and they have to be online to access the files. If users are offline or if the central server is down, we cannot access the files. And here, user will not have any copy, local copy in the machine. So to overcome these drawbacks, we go with the distributed version system. And here, the source code repository, whatever the project components I have, we are going to maintain a remote server. Users should have valid access to remote server and repositories. And here, user can able to perform offline mode as well as the copies of the file will be maintained in the local machines. So when we talk about Git, Git is a open source distributed version control system, which is promptly used for version control changes as well as for tracking changes. And we can perform the parallel development using branching techniques. Any question? Any
No,
question here?
no. Yeah.
Am I making things clear to all? It's a
Mm.
very important for interview also. Okay, like what is Git? If anyone asked you about what does Git means, you can talk about all these points. Easy. And the next question is distributed version system. What does distribute means? You can talk about all these pointers. And going forward, all the application development, the source code management, everything is based upon the distributor only. That too, as per the DevOps practice, we never recommend to use centralized version control system. We always recommend to use a distributed one. Easy? Am I clear with this?
Yes.
All of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fine. So now
Yes.
how we can able to work on this? So next thing is we understood what is Git now. The next thing is working with Git, or I can say like distributed version control system. Okay. So in order to work on this, right, first we need to install Git client in the local machine. Because when we talk about the distributed version system, the repository will be maintained in the remote server as well as in the local machine, right? The copy of repository will be maintained in the remote environment as well as in the local machine. So we have two infrastructure now. One is the remote server and then the local machine. So in all the user machine, local machine, we have to install Git client. And when it comes to the remote server, we have something called remote repositories. Server. Like that is what we are using our GitHub. Remember, you have created a GitHub account, right? You all have
Yes.
GitHub account, right? I asked you to create,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
Yeah.
we are managing our training documents there, right? So
Yes.
GitHub is considered as one of the remote repository, which is used to maintain some source code changes or the project documentation. We are using it for our maintaining our project documentations. Okay. So apart from GitHub, we have a lot of things like in a real-time environment, we'll be using something called GitLab. We can have Azure repos, AWS code commit, Bitbucket. All these things are some alternative products when compared to GitHub. So GitHub is promptly meant for open source projects. Correct. So if you want to work in any distributed version system, you should have local Git installed in a machine, and you should have access to any of the remote Git repository. It can be GitHub or GitLab or whatever. So hope you understand the difference between Git and GitHub now. So Git is just a client installed in local machine. GitHub is something considers a remote repositories. Easy? Am I clear with this? All are listening or like any problem? Please be more active and more attentive because the concepts are very, very crucial. If you miss anything, it's very difficult to follow for sure. Okay. So step by step, I'm giving you each and everything in detail. Please focus. If you're unable to understand, let me know then and there itself. Right. So we are going to work with distributed version control system now. To do that, we need to understand the installation process, how to install Git client in local machine. And then we'll talk about the remote server. Easy?
Yeah.
Yes.
Fine. So let's start with the working process. Okay. Okay. So in order to work with Git, right? First thing you need to understand is about Git file workflow. This is the very first thing you need to understand. It means when you create any file in your Git version system, how the data, how the file will flow, how we are going to version control it. For example, when you create a file, it will be saved as a flat file. How this versioning is assigned to that file, how you are creating this tags or commits, to that file. You have to be very clear about this. First thing. And second thing is you need to understand some of the Git CLI commands through which we can able to interact with Git to create a repository or manage the versions and all. And the next important thing is you need to understand the Git branches techniques. This is a third topic you need to be clear. I'm just giving you the topics on high level, okay? Under the Git CLI commands, we have a lot of things to discuss. Under branching strategy, we have a lot of things to discuss. I'm just giving you some content on high level. And finally, we need to understand how to manage link remote GitHub repositories. So these are the 4 essential topics you have to be sure if you want to work on Git, and it is must to have skills. Okay, any developers or any DevOps resource company expects Git knowledge. It is, though if you are going to maintain only source code, it is also used by the DevOps resource. Tomorrow, if you create any source code for your process automation, you will be maintaining it, right, in a Git repository. So for that, first you should understand how to work on your Git CLI commands and how to manage the remote repositories, how to perform some parallel developments and all. Easy. So these are things we are going to cover as part of this module on a high level. Now, first topic in the list is about Git file workflow. So this topic is considered as a very crucial topic. If you are clear with this topic, right? I'm telling you, as per my experience, if you're clear with this topic, almost 60% of your Git is over. Okay. Out of these 4 content, if you cover this Git file workflow, if you're 100% sure about this topic, your 60% of Git is over. Remaining 40% only are going to deal with all those things. And to work on these 40%, the 60% plays a very important role. Based upon this knowledge only, you can able to actually work on branching, client command, as well as remote repositories. So this is going to play a very important role. So please pay attention. If you need a break in between, let me know, because it's a bit lengthy topic. If you think like it is getting exhausted or something, you can stop me there itself. Shall we?
Hello, sir. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or anything you want, because please make it more interactive. Yeah, because I know people are from office, they must be back from office, and there are a lot of responsibilities. I can understand, but at least this 2 hours make it interactive so that we can learn many things.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Because if only if it is interactive, right, I'll get some energy to deliver, right? Otherwise, it'll be like a recorded session for you people.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, you can
so,
post.
so don't give the situation.
Yes.
So now we are going to discuss about Git file workflow. So what the Git file workflow is going to demonstrate here is, ultimately we're going to understand how a file is going to flow from the creation point till the remote repository. All right? Because when it comes to your distributed version control system, as we already discussed, we'll be having a local machine and remote server, correct? Yes or no? We have local machine and the remote server. In this local machine, we can able to create the file like index.html. So where I'll create this file, I'll be creating it in one directory, in one folder. So that is what here we call it as a working directory. Okay. So in local machine, first we will create a working directory And in that working directory, we'll be creating a file. So this working directory is a physical memory location. Like in D drive or in E drive, we can create a folder, and within the folder, we can create this particular file. As like how we created here yesterday. Remember, I have created this folder, and within the folder, I made in the component. So this folder is something I consider as a working directory. So within the working directory, whenever I save a file, it will be saved as a flat file, as just a flat content, static file, without any additional logical meaning. Now, I want to version control it. I want to assign some version number or tagging or commit ID to this file. So how it is possible means it has to be committed to the local repository. Okay. So what are the files you have created in the working directory? You have to commit it into the local repository. Only then that version number will be assigned. Easy. So till you keep your file in the working directory, it will be like a flat file. But once you save that file, once you commit that file in that local repository, that file will be getting some additional meaning, some metadata that defines the version of the file. Easy. But the point here is, from the working directory, you cannot directly commit it to the local repository. There is an intermediate component called staging area. Correct. We have an intermediate component called staging area, and we have to first add the changes from the working directory to the staging area first. And from the staging area, you have to commit it to the local repository. So this is how the process involved in your local machine. So there is a command, a git CLI command, which is used to add the changes to the staging area. The command I can say like git add command. Similarly, once the changes are added to staging area, from here, if you want to commit local repos, we use a command called git commit command. So this is how the file will flow from the working directory to the local repository. So I repeat, in local machine, we have three important sessions or areas to maintain the files. Working directory is a physical memory location where user will have direct access to create a file, and they can able to make any number of changes in the file. And once the file is ready, if they want to create a version of that file, they have to add that file to the staging area. And from the staging area, they can commit it to the local repository. So only the working directory is a physical memory location. The staging area and the local repository are something logical, which is something maintained by Git, which you install in the local machine. Remember, I asked you to install Git client in local machine, right? So that Git client will maintain this staging area and local repository for managing the changes. As a user, we never get direct access to edit this. Whatever changes you want to make it in the working directory and then save it to the local repository. And once the changes are ready in the staging area, you can add commit to local repository, and now it will create one new version of the changes. And if you want to share this changes to your team members or any other user, you can able to publish to the remote repository. So in your remote server, you'll be having the remote repository. So we use git push command to push the changes to the remote repository like this. So now the point is, I am creating the file in the working directory. If I want to version control changes, I can add the changes to the staging area and from there only the changes can be committed to my local repository. I cannot directly commit from the working directory to the local repository. It's not possible. Through staging area only we can able to make it. So staging area acts as the interface between your working directory and the local repository. Easy? Understood? Staging area acts as a interface between the working directory and the local repository. Similarly, the changes whatever you made in the working directory, directly you cannot publish to the remote repository. It should be done through your local repository only. From local repository, you can able to push it to the remote repository. You cannot directly push it into the remote repository from working directory. Easy? So this is what your Git file workflow. Easy. So please remember, we have local machine and remote server. In local machine, we can have working directory, staging area, and local repository. Working directory is something maintained, created, and maintained by developer or any user. It's a physical memory location. But the staging area and the local repository are something logical that is maintained by your Git in the local machine. Right? And in the remote server, you use your Git repository. Like how I created one remote repository in my previous session. Like if you can see my training document here, this is a repository. Training document is a repository. Within the repository, I maintain some projects or components here. Similarly, we can maintain any number of repositories in the remote server, Git server. Easy? So any question on this process? It's a very basic level of your file workflow. Any question here?
If the version 1 is failed and now I want to amendment once more, the same process will happen.
Yeah, you can able to create any number of versions, right? Let's say you have just updated here, and if you want, you can create a new version. Let it be version 1.1, and you can able to make any number of changes there as per the need. Correct. So these are the various versions you can able to create and publish it to your container registry. Sorry, remote repository. Easy. So this is my latest version, 1.4. If this version is not working as expected, I can quickly revert to a previous version, which is available in the same remote repository. It is a logical entity. Easy. Any question on this?
So
You-
in a staging area, the directory is being saved, right?
In staging area, we never save anything permanently.
Okay.
It is just an interface between your working directory and the local repository. Correct. If you want to commit anything, you can just add it to staging area. From there, you can commit to your local repository. So when you keep your file in the working directory, it is just a physical file. If you want Git to start tracking the changes, you add it to staging area. From there, you can commit to the local repository. Correct?
Okay.
Loksai, I have a question here. Correct me if I'm wrong. On your local machine, even before adding our git add message, don't we have to initialize git before working on your working directory? Like
Assume
git
that we
init.
are already initialized. I'm not concerned about the repository creation. Assume that already you have a local repository.
Mhm.
And I'm just creating a file and adding it. I'll show you how to create local repository separately, but I'm just talking only about the file workflow here. Whether you're initializing or whether you are cloning, that is secondary.
Okay.
All right. So I'll talk about the git init, git clone, everything in detail one by one.
Okay.
So any other question here? So what is the purpose of git add?
To move over into the staging area.
Sorry, come again.
Yeah, whatever the code written, will move that code into the staging area.
Staging area, moving to staging area.
Okay.
Whatever the untracked file, we move to tracked files that we use with the git add command.
So what about git commit? Git commit?
Git commit is like
Commit to the local repository.
Okay, so from staging area to local repository, if you
We
want
can
to,
permanently save in the local directory.
it's not a local directory actually, it's a local repository. Okay. Okay, and what about git push command?
yeah, so the local repository will push that code into the remote
Local
repository.
to remote repository, moving.
All right. So if you are clear with this, we'll go to the next level. Listen carefully. Consider I have a scenario. I'll give one scenario. Okay, consider I have a developer. So you guys know what are the developers' workload? What type of project they can able to create, or what are the types of projects they'll be working on in any case? If you are a developer, what kind of project you'll be working on?
Like financial projects, banking application, or other things.
No, I'm not asking about the domain here. Okay, let me put that point here. See, as a developer, my workload will be something based upon the existing project, or it can be new project. It means either I'll be working on some enhancements, or it can be bug fixing, or it can be altogether a new project, right? Yes or no? Either I can
Yes.
create a new service or new product, or the product is already available. I just want to do some enhancement in the existing product, or if there's any bugs or issues in the existing product, I need to work on it. So these are three items I'll be promptly working on as a developer. Apart from that, is there any other task or any other project, whatever the domain it is? Any guess or anything comes in your mind apart from this?
There can be something like if the project is really old, so like we have to change it with the new technologies which is came. But I think it will come under
That's what I,
enhancement.
yeah, enhancement, right? That's what I just sum up as enhancement there, right?
Yeah.
So these are the three items developers can work. So why I introduce these two terms here means, so when we talk about the enhancement project or a bug fixing project, what it means, the source code of the project is already available in my remote repository, correct?
Yeah.
The code is already available. As a developer, I need to use the code and make some incremental changes, and again push it back to the remote server. If I'm going to work on a new project, can I expect the repository in a remote environment? No, altogether I have to create from a local machine. From my local machine, I need to initialize a new repository. I'll be making some changes. I'll be doing thorough testing. Once my testing is done, I'll be pushing it to the remote repository. So these are two different flows. So to start your work, whether you are going to download the source code from the remote repository local machine, or you're going to create altogether as a new project in the local machine. That makes a difference. So people should consider all these aspects. Okay.
Existing project,
Yeah, existing project. That's what. If you're working on any enhancement or bug fixing activities, you'll be dealing with the existing project only, right?
no, so that existing project, we have already that repository. Yeah? So directly we are pushing that repository in the remote repository. But in the new project, we need to assign the task and all the things
Yeah, that's what
newly basis.
that's what I mean to say. Yeah. So now consider a scenario. I have a remote server. Sorry, I'm not that good in scribbling on screen with this mouse pointer. So please bear with me. I'll try to match as much as possible. Consider I have a remote server. In this server, I have a remote repository where I have some project components, everything. Now, as a user A, I'm going to access my remote server from my local machine. I will establish a connection to the remote server, and I'll try to, if I want to work on enhancement project, what should I do? I'll be downloading that entire repository to my local machine. So in my local machine, I'll be having 3 different sessions like working area or working directory, staging area, and then the local repository, correct? Yeah. Correct. So when I try to bring the entire repository to local machine, I cannot directly download. There is a command called git clone command. So using git clone command, I'll be downloading or cloning the entire repository to my local machine. When I say local machine, the changes will be updated in the working directory as well as in the local repository. It's up to date. It is just a process of synchronizing my remote repository with my local machine. Easy. So clone command used to clone or download the entire remote repository to my local machine. So once I have the changes available in local machine, what I can do, I can make some incremental changes in my working directory, right? I can create a new file or a new function in the existing program, correct? And I can able to add it to the staging area. What is the command we use here to add? It will be like git add command. Using git add command, I can add the incremental changes from the working directory to my staging area. And from staging area, if I want to create a version of it or create a commit out of
Git
it, I can
commit.
use git commit. So assume that initially we have version 1.0 in a remote server. We just downloaded it. We made some incremental changes and we have created a new version called v1.1. So once the changes are ready, what you can do, you can push the changes to the remote repository by using git push command. Remember, we use git push command there. Easy. So it means I'm trying to push version 1.1, the new changes. Easy. So this is the flow from the remote repository to the local machine and from local machine to the remote repository. Similarly, we can have any number of developers. Assume that we have developer B now. So this developer B also can have access to the remote server. They can able to clone the entire repository to their local machine where they have their working directory, their staging area, and then local repository. So he can able to make some incremental changes add it to staging area. And from there, they can able to commit to the local repository. And from local repository, they can push it to the remote repository. Easy? Any question?
So this cloning area, both the site is usable, means that local repository or remote repository.
Yeah, of course. We
Okay.
can. It's a shared entity, right? We can able to use it.
Loksa, isn't it advisable that we should create a branch, like rather than pushing all the code into the main branch, we can create a branch so that developers can collaborate with each others, right? Like whenever we are pushing the
Don't think
change.
about the branches now.
Okay.
Okay. I'll talk about the branches separately. I have the item in the list. Okay. As of now, we're discussing about the Git file workflow. Let's understand the first level. Then we'll talk about the branches and all as a best practice.
All right.
All right. Please go with the flow. So now the point is this developer B has cloned the repository. It means while he is cloning the repository, which version he is getting now? He'll be having version 1.1, correct? The changes whatever developer is published into the remote repository, that version 1.1 has been cloned into the user B machine, and he has created some incremental changes, and he is pushing version 1.2. Assume that.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yep.
Sir, if A and B are accessing a same file, what will happen?
We have a lot of techniques to handle that scenario. I'll talk about it. Okay, it's too far or too early to discuss that. There are a lot of techniques to handle such situations. I'll talk about it. Now, the point is, I have created a new version in this user B machine. The version number is v1.2. Now, this v1.2 has been published to my remote server. Now, user A wants to work on the latest version because he is having just v1.1, right? The latest version of this machine is v1.1. But while he is working on this, user B has published v1.2 now. Latest version in the remote server now is v1.2. So how we can able to bring the changes to his local machine?
By using git pull.
So when we say git clone command, the clone command is used to copy the entire repository to the local machine. And it is always recommended to use git clone command only once. That means for the very first time. For the very first time, if you want to clone the repository, or if you want to bring the entire repository to local machine, you can use git clone. Got it? But in my case, already I have cloned the repository. I have a copy of my repository available now. So I'm going to handle the incremental changes alone. I just need the latest version from a remote server. So in that case, I should not use git clone. We have an alternate command called git pull. So there is a command called git pull command. As well as we have something called git fetch. So there are two commands that is associated to handle the incremental changes from the remote server. So what is the purpose of git fetch command means? Let's say as a user A, my intention is I just want to check if there is any incremental changes happen in the remote server or not. My intention is not to work on the changes. I just want to know if there is any incremental changes happen in the remote server or not. So if your intention is just to check for the changes, you can use git fetch command. So this git fetch command will bring the incremental changes from the remote server and update the local repository. I repeat, if your intention is to check only the incremental changes from the remote server, you can use git fetch command. So git fetch command, it will get into the remote server and check if there is any incremental changes available or not. If it is available, it will update the details in the local repository. Just details. It will not bring that file changes in the working directory. But if your intention is to work on that incremental changes, in that case, you can use git pull command. So when you issue git pull command from a local machine, it will get into the remote server and check for the incremental changes. If there is any incremental changes exist, it will update the incremental changes in the local repository as well as in the working directory. Easy? So there are two things here. One is whether you just want to update the information about the incremental changes in the local repository or whether you want to work on the changes. If you want to work on the changes should be present in the working directory. Then we can have to work on it. So for that, I can use git pull. Or if I'm not interested to work on changes, means I can simply use git fetch. All right. So that is how we manage our incremental changes from the remote server to the local machine. Say, for example, consider this developer B has updated 10 files. Assume that he has created 10 files and pushed it in the remote server. Now, as a user A, I'm not interested to work on all the 10 files or all the 10 changes. So if I use git pull command, the entire 10 file changes will be dumped into my working directory. I'm not interested to do that now. So I can use git fetch command and check for the changes. And whenever required, I can just take it to my working directory and manage it. For that, we'll be using some branching techniques and all. In future, I'll talk about it. So as of now, you should understand how to bring the entire repository to the local machine and also how to bring the incremental changes to the local machine. Easy? So let's have a quick summary of this. So what is the very first command we used here?
Git clone.
Git clone.
Listen carefully.
Git
So we use git add, right?
Yeah.
So what I said about git add?
It used to
We are
add the code into the
pushing
staging.
heading area, yeah.
To add
Staging.
the changes.
Changes in the stage.
You should be clear whenever we talk about the file workflow, right? You should be clear with the source and the destination.
Okay.
From where to where, that is very important. So always the git add command is between
Working directory to staging area.
working directory
To staging area.
to staging area. And what is the next command we use? Git
Git commit.
Commit.
So this is to
Add the changes
Commit
from
changes
commit
from staging area to
local.
local repository.
from staging area to
Local repository.
repository. And also we talked about git push command,
push.
remember?
Yes.
What is it?
It is used to push the code from local repository to remote repository.
Changes from local repository to remote repository. Correct. And in addition to that, I use something called git clone. What is the git clone?
It is the
Copy.
Copy
Or
files from remote
complete
server to local.
it is used to copy or clone the entire repository.
entire repository from remote to work.
Entire remote repository to working directory.
Local.
Local machine. When I say local machine, it includes working directory as well as local repository. Alright, the term is very important here. When I say local machine, it includes local repository as well as the working directory.
Okay.
Correct. Now, what is the next command we used? Git
fetch.
Git fetch or git pull.
Git pull.
So this is something very important, okay, to consider. So listen, please. Both git fetch and git pull are used to handle the incremental changes from
Remote.
remote repository.
remote
From
repository.
remote repository to local.
No, from remote repository for now. Okay, from remote repository. Incremental changes from remote repository. But the point is, when you
There is-
say git fetch means
If there is an
it
incremental
is used to check for the
change,
Incremental changes.
in the remote
Remote
repository.
repository.
Okay. If there is any incremental
changes available,
changes exist, it will update the details in the
Local machine.
local repository.
local repository, not in the working directory. Correct? Easy? It will just update the details about the changes only in the local repository, not in the working directory. That is very important. But if you consider your git fetch, git pull command, it is also used to check for the incremental changes in the remote repository. If there are any changes exist, it will update the details
The work.
about the changes in the local repository as well as
Work there.
in the working directory. Easy? Easy.
Yeah.
So this is about git pull. So that makes a difference. So when you say git fetch, it just updates the local repository, not the working directory. So from working directory, if you want to work on the change, I mean from local repository, if you want to work on changes, you can use git merge and then take it to the working directory. Okay, so using git merge, we can update the working directory from local repository. So tomorrow while working on branching techniques, I'll show you how to use a merge and all. That is a different story. But when you say git pull command, it is going to perform two things. That is, it is going to fetch the details as well as it is going to perform merge automatically. So git pull is something equal to git fetch and git merge. Easy? Am I clear with this?
Yes.
So please be clear with these commands. These are CLI commands you're going to actually work. And you need to be very clear about each and every command, its importance and in which area we're going to use everything. And apart from that, there is something called git init. So this git init is something used to initialize a local repository. For example, if you're working on any new project, in that case, you can't expect remote repository. You cannot clone it, right? Because altogether I'm going to create from local machine. So from your local machine, if you want to create any repository from the scratch, you can use git init. I'll talk about git init in detail, but as of now, understand it is just to initialize a local repository. And in addition to that, you guys, while working on this repository, this is a remote repository, right? Have you forked the repository by any chance?
Yeah.
How many of you forked the repository? I can see some folks here.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
repository.
Yes.
So what is fork actually? What you did exactly there?
It was
Syncing the data from your repo to like.
How many of us have access to your content, it seems?
We just got git pull traded.
Hmm?
Fork is a copy, I think so.
Yeah. So you're just taken a copy of my repository into your repository, right? Into your account, right?
yes.
Correct.
Yes.
So there is something called fork. It is not a CLI command, but it's an action that we perform on the remote repository. Fork means it is used to copy a remote repository to another remote repository. That's what you did know. You already have this remote repository. You just taken a copy of this remote repository into your remote repository, not to your local machine, correct? All right. Guys?
Yes.
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 So that is about git fork. I'm not talking about a sync fork here, okay? Sync fork is just to keep your repositories in sync. That is a different story. But to enable your sync fork, first you have to fork it, right?
Oh, yes.
So fork is just a process of copying a remote
Uh,
repository to another remote repo. That's what a backup actually. I told you it is a distributed version control system. So assume that there are n number of developers are trying to update the same remote repository. So before I allow my developer to update my remote repository, I can quickly take a backup of it so that if there is anything goes wrong also, I have a backup, right? So on that perspective, we do some fork action there. It is to copy a remote repository to another remote repository. So any question on these commands?
Well, I do have a question.
no, I don't have any questions.
What is the main difference between fork and clone?
That's what you can see here, right? So git clone, it is to clone or copy the entire repository to your local machine. From remote repository, you're copying it to the local machine. But fork is not to copy into local machine. It is to copy to another remote repository. Is it?
Yeah. Okay.
So if your intention is to bring your remote repository local machine, you can use git clone. Instead of that, if you want to create another repository in a remote environment, and if you want to take a backup of it, the remote server, you can use git fork. All right. So I'll give you a minute time. Just read the statements, whatever I have mentioned here. And if you have any question, please let me know. Because these are all the essential things as part of your Git file workflow.
What will happen if you will use the clone two times?
Sorry?
Clone, you told na cloning only one time only.
Yeah, if you already have a repository in a local machine, you can take care of the incremental changes. Do not clone it again for some performance reason. Is that a question or like?
Yeah. No, it's clear.
If you want, I'll give you one small scenario. Okay, I'll in a real-time environment how we manage it. For example, consider I have a remote repository, and assume that in this remote repository I have a file like index.html file. Assume that this file is having around 10 lines of code, and the size of the file, assume that it can be like a 10 KB. Just for an example, I'm saying. So you have issued git clone, and what you did now, you just clone the entire file into the local machine. So in my local machine, I just downloaded 10 KB. That means 10 lines of code, correct? Am I right?
Yes.
Now I can make some incremental changes on this file. So let me add 10 more lines. It means the size becomes 20 KB, for example. So what I can do, I can able to push it to remote repository. Like this, we can able to expect other developers also to push their changes to the remote repository. Like that we can have. So now the remote repository will get updated with 20 KB, correct? Right. Now assume that as a user, I already have my initial clone action with this 10 KB of file. If I do the clone again, what will happen? It will download the entire 20 KB to my local machine. But my requirement is I already have 10 KB. I need the new latest changes from the remote server. Correct? So every time, whenever you are dealing with the data, you have to deal with the incremental changes only. That new 10 lines of code only you should download from remote repository. Instead of if you use git clone command, what will happen? It will try to replace. It will download the entire 20 KB into your local machine. So how much data transfer rate and the throughput, the volume you're going to handle, that matters a lot. Hope you can understand why we use git clone only once.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
All right. So this is about your git CLI commands to start with. So shall we go with the implementation now?
Yes.
So in order to work on this, first you have to install Git in your local machine. Okay. So I'll be giving you the installation process. Listen carefully. So this is the URL through which we can able to download your Git. So let me put this in chat window also if you want. And this link is also available in your class notes. Okay. So go to this link. And if you want to download Git for your Windows machine, you can use this option. You can use this link. Or if you click on download for Windows, it will download one exe file. Got it? So you can see if you go to this Windows option, you can able to get something called 32-bit Git for Windows setup. Use this standard installer 32-bit Git for Windows setup. Just click on this link. It will download one exe file, the executable file. Just double click that exe file and install Git client in your local machine. Possible?
Yes.
Possible now?
Yes.
Any Linux or Mac users?
Yes.
Yes.
So if you're a Mac user, you can follow this thing, like go to this link, Mac OS link, and here you have something called Homebrew Package Manager. Through that Homebrew Package Manager, you can install Git. I guess Mac users, if you're updating your OS package regularly, Git is already part of your package. Okay, just open a terminal and run a command. Git version command like this. All Mac users and Linux users, just open your terminal. You know how to open a terminal, right? Just open a terminal and run the command git --- version and check whether you can able to get the version of Git.
Okay.
All Mac and Linux users, open your terminal window and type the command git --- version command. If it is available, because the latest packages comes with the Git actually. So And and Windows users, I hope you're following this process, right? So just go to the link and click on the 64-bit Git for Windows. You'll be getting the exe file. Just run the exe file. And while executing it, right, during the installation process, just leave all the parameters as a default parameter and click on next till the end. Click on next, next, next till the end. Don't change any default parameters there. All right. So I'll give you another 5 minutes for you to complete this task. Possible?
Please share the link.
I pinged you in the chat window. Is that for Windows or like Mac?
Windows.
Okay, please check your chat window now.
Don't
Got
see
it?
any.
Got it?
No.
Got it now?
Yeah, now we got.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so Windows users, you'll be on this page. Click on 64-bit Git for Windows setup. See? So once Git is installed, Windows users, once you have Git installed, you can get these 3 packages. You must be getting Git Bash, Git CMD, and Git GUI. Git Bash is something for the Linux Bash commands. Linux users can use Git Bash, and PowerShell users can use Git's command prompt. And GUI is just a very basic GUI tool available. You can ignore it. It is not much usable. So we'll be promptly focusing on Git Bash terminal in Windows machine.
Loksai, why we are installing it locally? Are we not using EC2 instance?
I told you, right? We are in a development phase, continuous development phase, right? As a developer, every developer will be having Git client installed on the local machine, correct?
Yes.
Tomorrow, if you want to build your changes, in the case, we can use your AWS EC2 instance, install Git and do some sort of builds and code promotions there. But now, as a developer, it's recommended to have Git in the local machine. That's an idea.
Okay.
Any restrictions in your local machine?
No, no, no. I'm just asking the reason why we are doing this.
All right.
Done.
All right. So if you're done with this, you can see as a Windows user, you should be able to see Git Bash, Git GUI, as well as Git CMD. So click on this Git Bash. Use Git Bash. Don't use Git CMD or Git GUI. From Start menu, select Git Bash.
Yeah, open.
All of you, have you all done this or any other challenges there? Anyone facing the challenges, please let me know. Need any help there? Easy? Guys, please respond. I'm waiting for others' response.
Done.
Any challenges?
Done.
No, looks as
No, done.
Okay, so shall I proceed further now?
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
fine. So now we have installed Git. People who are using Windows machine, just go to Git bash and open that bash terminal. It looks something like this. And all the Mac users and Windows, Linux users, open a terminal, right? And then use the command git version command, git space hyphen version. So this is the very first CLI command, git CLI command you're going to run to check the version of Git. Can you able to get the version of Git installed on your machine?
Yeah, yes.
All right. That should be fine. Good. So it means the installation of Git client is successful in our local machine. So once you install Git in local machine, we are going to use the same Git client to create Git repositories. Okay, we are going to work with Git local repositories. Okay. So first command which I ask you to execute is git version. And now, very important thing is, listen carefully. We have to maintain the project workspace or folder, we can say. Okay. We have to take care of the project workspace or project folder, because as like that, you cannot create, let's say if I open git bash here, the present working directory is this one. Remember pwd command. What is pwd? It is a present working directory. Remember we used it in a Linux module once upon a time.
Yes.
Right? So when I open this git bash terminal, by default, it takes me to the user's home directory. And it is not recommended to directly initialize or clone any repository in this path. We should always create one folder, project folder, and within that folder only, it is recommended to maintain your, what do you call that? Git repositories. So what you can do here is, you can first create a folder structure. Folder structure in the sense, okay, so let's say I want to manage all my repositories in a D drive. Okay, I have a D drive, so I can go to CD D colon. See, from this, the control is moved to D drive. Don't try anything now, listen first. Don't type any commands there, just listen please. And in this D drive, I just want to create a folder. So the command here is CD to D colon, and then mkdir. What is it? Paper live on projects. Okay. And now navigate to the project folder. And then within that folder, you create a subfolder. Like for example, mkdir repo1. and cd to repo 1. And within this repo 1 only, you should be able to initialize the Git repository, or you should be able to clone the Git repository, everything you can do. Do not execute a git init or git clone command in this default directory. It is not recommended. Okay, so just maintain a folder structure like this. Similarly, if you want to work on another repository on the same root folder, you can create another folder like mkdir repo 2, dir repo 3. So what it mean? This paper live projects is my default
Default directory.
directory or a home directory for my project workspace. Within that, I can have some project repositories. So if I want to work on repo 1, I can say cd to repo 1. Like that, we can able to get into that specific repository and then issue git init. Easy. So please maintain the structure. Do not execute git init command directly in the D drive or any other folder. It will mess up your entire repository structure. Easy. Any question?
Nope.
Good, sir.
It's all best practice. Okay, we always recommend the developers to follow such things just to avoid conflicts while dealing with the multiple repositories. So can you all able to make it, or any doubts on this thing? Can you able to create at least this one? Okay. Fine. So what I said about git init command, what is the purpose of git init?
Initialize the local repository.
Okay. So git init command is to initialize your git repository. Okay. Not only that, it is also used to create .git folder. When you execute git init command, it will create .git directory within that repository, which is a hidden folder. And also it creates a default branch called master branch. So first we'll see how to work with the new projects. As part of this developer's workload, first we'll see how to work with a new project. We'll see how to create a local repository using git init. We'll practice all the important CLI commands related to local repository, and then we'll work on the remote repository by using git clone, push, pull, all those stuff. Easy. So we'll be working with the local repository now. So let me go to my project workspace directory. I'm on D drive. In this D drive, let me create a folder. There you go. I'm on this D drive, right? Okay. mkdir. Okay. And cd to paper live projects. And this folder is completely empty. Now I'm going to create a repository like repo 1. And this folder is created. Now let me navigate to the folder cd to repo 1. Easy. So this is my present working directory. As I said, we have created a root folder, and within that we have created one repository, and we just navigate to the repository. Easy. Any question on this process?
No, Loksai.
No.
No, no.
All of you are clear, right? What I'm doing, or
Yes.
feeling sleepy?
No.
No, clear.
No, Loksai, all good.
If you're finding it difficult to sit for continuous 2 hours, let me know. I can give you a 5 minutes break in between. But please ensure that you have full attention here, okay? There is no problem in having a break. If you need, just let me know. No, don't hesitate. Huh?
Yep.
All right. So now we are going to initialize a new local repository. Hope font size is better, right? Okay. So now if you can see this folder, I don't have any files or subfolders. Even if I say ls-a also, I cannot find any hidden files or folders. So the purpose of using git bash is used to directly run some Linux commands. Correct. That is another advantage of using git bash. Linux users can able to directly use some Linux commands here. So at this point, this folder is empty. My requirement is to create a new local repository. For that, I use a command git init. Listen carefully. When I say git init, I'm running this command from repo1. See, it has initialized an empty git repository in this directory. And it has created one .git folder. If you say ls, ls-a, you can see the .git folder is created now. And also it has created a branch called master branch. You see? So that is what git init means. When I say git init, it is used to initialize the empty git repository. It creates .git directory as well as the default branch called master branch. So all your distributed version control system is based upon the branching techniques. If you initialize any repository, it will be having a default branch called master or main. Master is considered default branch for any distributed version control system. Some version control system will be having main as a default branch name, but concept is same. Now we have initialized the repository and it has created one .git folder here. What is the purpose of it? If you navigate to that folder, you can see it is a git directory. If you give ls command, you can see some components there. So git is used to maintain, git will be maintaining all the metadata information about the repository under this .git folder. It is a hidden folder. That is something maintained and managed by git. I told you, right? In your local machine, you will be having a staging area, local repositories, the version numbers for each and every changes. So where all these things are maintained, because it's a logical entity, we will not have direct access to this. So Git client will maintain the staging area, local repositories, and the versioning details, the branch details, everything under this .git folder. So as a user, we are not supposed to make any changes on this folder directly. It will impact the integrity of your repository. So don't make any changes here. Don't even open it. Okay, just come out of it. Easy. Am I clear? Now, once you have this repository created, as of now, there's no files. There is a command called git status command. So when I say git status command, it is used to get the status of a current repository. So there is a next CLI command we are going to use is git status. So this is to get the status of current, current status of the local repository. So if you can see this, I have used a git status command. It is giving a status that we are on we are on branch master and no commits yet. We haven't done any commits because there is nothing to commit. And it's giving a recommendation, create or copy files and use git add to track. Because the folder is empty, right? Git is giving a recommendation. There is nothing to commit. So whether you want to make any commit, just create or copy some files into this folder and add it to staging area for tracking purpose. So what we can do now, we can create a new file. How to create a file here? What is the command?
Cat.
Yeah, cat or anything like echo record1 followed by the file name. It will be file1.txt. I've created one file. Got it? In my working directory, I have just created one file here. And now if I say git status, you can see earlier it was saying like we are on master branch, no commits yet, nothing to commit. But now it is saying we are on master branch, no commits yet, and it is identified one file as untracked file because we just create a file in the working directory. So whenever you create any file in the working directory, till you add it to staging area, that file will be considered as a untracked file by Git. Easy? Any question? Now, what I can do here is I can use a command git. What is the recommendation here? It is giving recommendation to use git add to track the changes. So we can use the command git add followed by the file name. So what it means here, I have my local machine. In that local machine, I have created a file called file1.txt, and this file is present in the working directory now. So if I want to track this file, or if I want to make git to track the file, what should I do? What is the command? Git add. Correct. That's what the case here. So I'm going to give a git add followed by the file name, and the file has been added to staging area. Windows users will be getting this warning. Okay, just ignore this warning. It's because of the file system or file type. Just ignore the warning. And once you execute a git add command, you can use a command like git status again. See here. Earlier, when I created a file, it says a file is untracked. Now, after adding the file to staging area, it is saying like changes to be committed. So when you will be getting this status means whenever there is something present in the staging area. So now the file1.txt has been updated in the staging area. Correct. So from here, it is expecting to execute git commit. That's what the point, changes to be committed. So here's the command called git commit -m followed by the message created file1.txt. So whenever we try to execute a commit, right, for what purpose you are committing the changes, you need to give a proper description. That means always a git commit command will expect a commit message. Because what I said about git here, git is promptly used for tracking your changes, right? Tracking
Yes.
change means who has made the change, when the changes are happened, for what purpose it happened, what all the files changes, everything has to be tracked. So in order to understand for what purpose we are committing this file, we need to give a commit message. That is mandatory. So git commit -m is used to pass some commit message. Message can be anything, but it should be relevant to the change. That's it. Now if I say git status, you can see we are on master branch, nothing to commit because everything is clean. The changes, whatever you made in your repository, working directory, has been updated in your local repository successfully. So upon commit, the staging area content will be removed. Okay, it won't be available in staging area because staging area is just like an interface. From staging area, the file has been moved to your local repository. So once it is committed, the staging area will be cleaned up. Easy. So this is how we manage our file from the working directory to the local repository. Easy? Should I repeat this? Now, what are the commands we used? We use git status, we use git add followed by the file name, and also we use git commit -m followed by the message. What is it created? File1.text. Any message, I'll do that one. Got it. And along with it, there's some command called git log command. So when I talk about git tracking, right, using git log command, we can able to track the changes. For example, this is my repository. I have a file created in the working directory, it's been committed. Now, if I say git log command, you can see it is showing me the git commit, the commit ID, complete commit ID, which is uniquely identifying the changes. I told you, right? Once the changes are added to your local repository, a commit ID, version number, or tag will be created, right? So Git assigns this unique ID for tracking purpose or to maintain the unique changes. So git log command is used to get the list of commits that are created in the local repository. So you can see the commit ID, you can see the author name who has made the changes along with their email ID, date and time of commit along with the commit message. Guys, I'm just giving you the basics, okay? I'm not expecting you to run any commands now. Don't try to execute any commands simultaneously. You won't get it successful. So please observe what I'm doing here. I will repeat this again. I'll repeat this. Even tomorrow, I'll again do this. Make yourself comfortable, then you can practice. If you want, I can show this again. Let me come out of this repository. I'm on this folder. So what is the first step to perform here? If I want to create a new repository, I can use mkdir repo 2. Now, if I navigate to the repo 2, it is just a folder. It does not have any branches as of now because there is nothing we have created. So what is the very first command to initialize my repository?
Git
init. So when I say git init, it will initialize an empty git repository in this folder. And if I say ls-a, I should be able to see the .git folder. And if I say git status, what is expected? Nothing to commit.
Sai here, master is nothing but by default.
It is a default branch name.
Okay.
Right. Whenever we create any distributed version control system, when you create a repository, it will create a default branch. Now we have just checked the status. It says nothing to commit because we don't have any files created. So if I create a new file here, and if I say git status, what is expected?
Untracked.
Yes, that
List
file
of
is
untracked files.
considered as untracked file. That file1.txt is considered an untracked file. Now I want to track this file. I want Git to track this file. So what I can do, I can use git add command. So git add followed by the file name. Now if I say git status, what is expected?
It to commit.
Changes to be committed. Correct? It has
Yes.
added the changes to staging area. Now the data is present here. It is expecting us to commit. So what I can do, I can simply say git commit
Followed by
-m
message.
created f1.text, any message related to the change. Like this, we can able to make any number of changes. And now if I give git status, you can see the working tree is clean. So as a user, whenever we work on any Git repository, it is always recommended to keep the working tree clean. The status of repository should always be clean There should not be any uncommitted changes or untracked files there. Easy. Now, if I say git log, I should be able to see the list of commits that are performed in that repository. Easy. Any question till now? Like this, you can make any number of commits. Like in my same repository, I can create one more file, like echo record1 f2.txt file. If I say git status, you can see that f2.txt file is considered untracked file now. So I can say git add now, right? And then git commit -m created f2.txt file. Now if I say git log, you can see earlier when I execute git log command, it is pointing to this particular commit. The latest commit by the time is 632 something, 6C2 something. This is a commit ID where I can see the author name, date, and then commit message. And along with this, you can find there is something called head pointer. Head is a pointer used by Git. It always points to the latest commit of their current branch. So earlier, this was the latest commit. So head is pointing to that commit point. Now I create a new commit for this file to a text, and the head pointer is pointing to the latest commit now. Got it? So we are going to talk about many things in the upcoming sessions. Okay. Today's session, my intention is to make you understand the importance of distributed version control system, that is Git. And you should be able to clearly understand the difference between all three types of version control systems. And then you should clearly understand the Git file workflow, like what is things available in local machine, what is the thing present in remote server, and what is working directory, staging area, local repositories, how the file can flow from the working directory to the local repository and then to remote repository, and what are all the basic CLI commands related with this. And in addition to that, since I had some time, I just created a repository. Got it? So your task for today is ensure that you install Git in your local machine and then create this folder structure, just this folder structure. If you want, you can execute till this one. Create a folder structure, go to this repo1 folder, execute this git init command and git status command alone. Got it? Don't try with git commit or git add or git log at this point of time. All right, because we have to discuss many things related to git add, commit and log. We'll talk about that in tomorrow's session. Easy? Any question till this? Till this git init command and git status command. Any question? Any question?
No, it's clear.
Looks like, can you explain one more time about the centralized version control? What is it? How they differ from the distribution?
See, centralized distributor version control, centralized version control system means you'll be having a central server. Okay. But in distributed, we never called as central server, we called as a remote server. Correct. So if you want to work in centralized version system, you have to connect to that central server and you have to be online, available online. Like if you're using Google document, right, you have to connect to the remote server and you'll be updating it online. You never download the file to local machine.
Okay, I understand. Yeah.
But here, if it is distributed, you can download the file to local machine, you can clone it, you can work offline, and you can push it to the remote repository at any point of time.
Okay. Yeah, understand.
Right. Any other question here? All non-IT people or people who are completely new to this, able to understand each and every command, at least what are things we discussed today?
Yeah.
Yes, it's clear.
All right. So tomorrow, before you join the session, at least 30 minutes earlier, right? Go through my class notes. I'll be updating this today. I'll do one thing. I'll create a separate folder for this module. And I've updated all the details here. Okay. So tomorrow, before you join the session, I strongly recommend to go through this class notes and at least once go through my class recordings so that it will be easy for you to sit in tomorrow's session. All right.
I have received a message that tomorrow will be mentorship session, I think.
Okay. What time?
The same time, 8 o'clock.
Same time, same URL now.
Okay. If so, just follow the instruction.
And Lokshay, where did you place those Python scripts which we have discussed earlier class?
It will be available in a separate folder. Okay.
But I don't see those folders. Is the folder shared?
Can you all able to get the access to this Git folder? Yes, no? Git folder, can you able to sync folk or any doubt, any question there?
It's accessible.
Okay. All right. So yes, so it is available in this folder, Git folder. You can see the class notes. So tomorrow, before you join the session, please ensure that you manage it. Go through the class notes and the class recordings once. Okay.
Yes,
Because tomorrow we're going to talk about a lot of things there. Yeah, sorry, what's the question?
oh, my question is like, in which folder these Python scripts which we have discussed?
Have you forked the repository or you're using my link directly?
Yeah, I forked the repository.
Yeah, if you fork the repository, just click on sync fork.
Yeah, I see the fork actually.
Click on sync fork. Can you able to see Python folder?
Yeah, I can see the Python folder, but
Eh?
yesterday I think you told like you'll share one
See this
document like which.
Python folder is there, right? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
There you can see Python programming exercises PDF along with the class notes. Just refresh the page and sync fork it. You should be able to find it now.
No, actually, that PDF is not available for us.
Mari, the PDF should be there, right? At least can you see the PDF name?
No, we can only see class notes.txt.
Are you seeing it from your repository or from my repository?
From my only.
Then refresh the page and click on sync fork, please.
I did that just now.
Actually, it is available now. If you can.
Just click on sync fork. You should see that PDF. Maybe
And
for
the
some of you
PDF is
people,
available.
yeah, maybe for some of people, PDF might not be accessible because of the size and the bandwidth. So if you click on the PDF, you should be able to see the content of the PDF. If it is not showing this content, what you can do, you can see there is a download button, right? Can you see this on my
Yes.
screen? Yeah, click on download. It
Yes.
download that PDF alone to your local machine. You can use the PDF directly.
Okay.
Because of the size of the PDF or network bandwidth, the PDF might not get opened on your web browser. So if there is a case, select the folder PDF name and click on this download button, download local machine and access it offline. Easy? Is that clear? Yes, no?
Yes, I.
All right then. Thank you.
Yes.
Fine then. Thank you. If you don't have any other question, we'll close this call.
Yeah, thank
Hope you
Thank
have
you.
attended the poll, right? Poll is addressed, right?
you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Thank you. People who are given not engaged, or it's too fast, or not clear, or not satisfied, please give some justification so that we can plan it accordingly.
Yeah, done with it.
All over performance rating 3 and all. I don't know what is the reason for it. Just let me know if you have any concern right away. Otherwise, again, it's difficult to track. Okay. Fine. Thank you all.